me just in the middle of turning my oven on, as it were. I have a nice little lever back here that, when deployed as such, closes off the flue and prevents the heat from going up into the chimney and makes it rather direct itself around the oven box to get it good and hot. We'll need that heat for our raspberry shortcake. So, speaking of, let's go get that ready, shall we? Alright, that done. Time to have a look in our book and see about this raspberry shortcake. I say, it is the second Wednesday of June, so we're following a recipe for a raspberry shortcake hot. It does call for black caps, but we didn't have any of those, so I'm just using some ripe red raspberries from our garden here. If you'd like to make it with me, you'll need the following things. 1 quart of flour, 2 tablespoons of lard, 2 tablespoons of butter, 2½ cups of loppered milk or buttermilk, the yolks of 2 eggs, 1 teaspoonful of soda, 1 teaspoonful of salt, and 1 quart of wild raspberries. All right, now let's see. I've got my handy sifter here. It's amazing the things that can be had nowadays with all the wonderful conveniences of the modern world, I say. All right, let's see here. So I need 4 cups of flour. So I'm going to go ahead and measure them out here in my measuring vessel. Let's see. That's 1 cup. We're going to sieve that together with a bit of baking soda as well. That will give our shortcake a nice rise. A little bit of butter worked into it, much like a biscuit dough. That's 2. That's 2. Let's see, here will be 3. And then 4. It's such a dark and gray morning today, so not at all what you'd expect for this time of year. But we've lit the lamps up nicely and it keeps the kitchen quite agreeable looking. So all will be well. I think that oven is getting good and hot and ready for us. Alright, there's our 4 cups of flour. Alright, let's see. I need 1 teaspoon, I think it's a tablespoon actually, of soda mixed in. Looks like it's time to go to the store. I'm getting rather low on my soda. Alright. Add that in and then give it a nice sieve together. Now her receipt calls for us to use lard and butter, and I have so much butter right now. I say we just left buttering season, so I think I'll just use all butter. It's all the same to you. You don't mind, do you? No, I didn't think so. I say. So we'll put a couple pieces of butter in here, and I'm going to cut it in just as I would with pie paste, or even with like biscuits, how you make with biscuits. That should be enough butter there for us to be getting on with. And I'll start working that in with my hands. Nicely worked in. I'm going to add just a little bit of salt, and then it's time to add our wet ingredients to our dry ingredients. So my receipt calls to have 2 egg yolks that are beaten nicely. I've already separated them here. I'll give them a nice little whisk, and in they go. So you mix in our buttermilk. You could use loppered milk if you had milk that had gone off, that had gone sour. But we had some buttermilk left by, so I thought it might as well be used up just the same. Alright, so there's our 2 egg yolks, and then I have 2½ cups of buttermilk to go in. Let's see. We'll give that a nice stir around and make a nice paste. Alright, that looks pretty well mixed to me. Give that spoon a little scrape. I've taken the liberty of already buttering my dish, and I've done so quite liberally, I must say. So it will hopefully not stick and release itself nicely when we go to separate it out. So now, a little bit of flour goes into my paste board here. There we are. And I'm going to cut this dough in half. We need a top crust and a bottom crust. The bottom crust is meant to be a slight bit thicker than the top crust. So I'm going to cut the dough in half and bring it up here. Let's see. I'll lay it out. See, it's quite wet, so I'm going to put a good deal of flour on it. That will also keep it from sticking to the pan as well. I need one more little bit on there. There we are. I think that will add nicely to it. And now I'm taking my very great rolling pin and I'm going to roll it out into a shape the size of that pan there. Alright, that looks pretty well rolled to me. I'm going to roll this up onto my rolling pin here and place it into my baking dish. Great dexterity and a little prayer. Oh, right, there we are. Fine, went in there just fine. I'll lower it in there. I'm going to trim the edges so it does fit quite nicely in there. And let's see, I've got my knife here. So I'll trim the edges off so it will stay nicely in my pan and not be either too great or too small. And I suppose if I had to, I could take some little bits of the dough that are left by and fill in little spots. There's a little spot on the edge here. I think I'll fill that in too. Alright, that's all nicely laid in there. The next instruction is to lay a thick layer of our raspberries. So I'm going to put those in here like this. And then strew them over the top with sugar. Alright, and now for a bit of sweetness to add to it. Be quite agreeable, I dare say. Alright, that looks like it'll be plenty sweet. Time for our top crust. Again, this one's meant to be a little bit thinner than the bottom crust, so I'm going to put a fair bit less of the pastry out for it to be worked with. That's going to need a little bit of flour as well. It is rather sticky, but most biscuit doughs are. So we'll put that on there like that so it's ready for us to hopefully not stick terribly to my pin. And we'll get it rolled out nice and neat. It's a gloomy, rainy day here today, so I think this raspberry shortcake will be just the tonic we need to lift our spirits a little bit. So, you know, as I'm thinking on it, I might even sprinkle a little extra sugar on top just to make it something special. I think that's agreeable, don't you? Alright, with the shortcake in the oven, I have my work cut out for me with the washing up, don't you think? My gracious, there's always more than enough of that to go around. Shortcake is cooled. I've got a nice glass cake plate that we can serve it onto just for something special. Time to cut it into pieces. Doesn't that look fine? So we've got it arranged so nicely here on the plate. I think this piece on top looks to be an extra, if you ask my opinion. And it's not very pretty, it's a little broken on the top, so I think I'm going to give it a try. Let's see. It's sweet and a little cakey and just sharp enough from the raspberries. I think it'll be a very welcome addition to our dinner table today. Delicious.